Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I want to show you how to use console emulation or console saturation on your MixBus. We're going to be going over console emulation on the MixBus today, but before we dive in, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process, step by step, to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and look at console emulation on the MixBus. So we're going to scroll over here. You can see all of the faders are down on this track. Completely raw track here. These are the raw recorded tracks. This mix hasn't even been started. There's just a little bit of balancing here. You can see the stereo pair of guitars has a slight bit of balancing on it. Of course, our bass DI and bass amp are ready to go. Those are running to a bus there. And then all of the background vocals have been pre-leveled here, and we just have one fader to control at the bus here. We're mainly going to focus on the instruments here for this track. We're going to pull up all the instruments, get the instrumental going, and talk about getting the console emulation in here on the MixBus. You can see we have nothing on our MixBus here, just raw instruments, raw recorded instruments running into our MixBus. Now there's a couple different ways that you can go about putting stuff on your MixBus. Now for me, because I have a template and because I've been working with my MixBus processing for so long and I know what it's going to do, I have it in from the get-go. So I would have, before I even pull the tracks up, before I even pull the faders up, I would get my MixBus processing in place here, and then I would balance into that. Now, if you don't have something that you love on your MixBus yet, if you don't have something that you're comfortable with, you want to work backwards then. What you want to do is you want to get your levels first, then put the console emulation on, and then go back from there and tweak your levels one more time. And after a while of doing that, after a while you get comfortable with it, you're going to know what it's going to do to your levels, so you can put it on and then mix into the console emulation. But you want to get comfortable with what your plugin's going to do and with what it's going to change frequency-wise as well as balance-wise on your tracks here. So before we put our console emulation in here, we're going to go through and get a quick balance on this track here. Then we'll come back, put our console emulation on, go back one more time and tweak it so it fits a little bit better, because it's going to change our tone a little bit, it's going to change our balances a little bit, and we want to make sure we're using it for its strengths, not its weaknesses here. So let's go back, and we're going to start by getting a quick balance here on the chorus of this track with at least the instrumental here. So let's get working. So the kick drum is a good example for me. When I have the console shaper in, or the console emulation here inside of Studio One, I don't end up pushing as much kick out up. I don't end up putting as much low end up into the kick drum as I am right here. So that's something you can get sometimes. Again, once you get comfortable with the plugin you're using, you'll know what it's going to change sound-wise, and you can have it in from the get-go here. Let's keep working, get our snare in. So same thing we talked about with the kick drum is going to happen on our bass guitar. For me, with the plugin I'm using, so you'll want to find a console simulation or a console emulator that you're comfortable with, and one that you like using inside your mix. So it'll take a little bit of experimentation there, but for me, I know the one I'm going to put on here in a little bit is going to give us more low end girth on our bass guitar. You can hear right now it's a lot of top end going on. But let's continue. Let's get our guitars and maybe our background vocals in. So that's sounding pretty good. I'm going to leave the vocals out here. If you can tell what it is, it's a cover song, so we'll make sure we don't get any copyright strikes, get the video taken down here by throwing the melody line or the vocals in there. So now we've got a good balance going. Everything's kind of working well here. We got our drums balanced, our bass, we got our guitars up here. Now I'm going to put the console emulation on. So it's not actually a plugin here inside of Studio One. I do use the ones that come stock here inside of Studio One. So it's just the console shaper here, and it's right up in the mix effects here. So I'm going to pull in the console shaper now, and it loads up in this top area in the mix effects. Now I actually use 0 on the drive here, and the drive is the only thing I've been using on the console shaper here. I just click the drive on and then go back, and I can tweak my balances one more time. I'll mess with it here. I'll push it up and down real quick so you can hear what the drive does, and we'll add some noise, and we'll mess with the crosstalk too so you can see what each of these elements do. For me, I don't like any crosstalk unless there's something I'm trying to enhance or make things feel a little bit more live. Sometimes if you have all programmed instruments and you want to make it feel a little bit more live, the crosstalk can help there to kind of bleed things into each other. And adding a little bit of noise can kind of fatten up your track a little bit as well. We're going to start just with the drive here, and we'll demo the other ones as well. So I want you to listen for a couple things here as I A-B the drive. Even all the way down at 0 here. Pay attention to how the low end changes. So focus on our kick drum and our bass guitar. Listen to how they get that extra bump of power and that extra bump of girth in the low end. It also helps the relationship between the both of them work better inside the mix. The other thing you'll notice, listen to the top end of the electric guitars. They get some extra shimmer on the top of them. That extra bit of crispiness, which sometimes can be a little bit too much, and you might have to roll it off, but that's what you're going to get with the console shaper here. Some exaggeration on the top end and some exaggeration on the low end here. It's kind of like pushing harder into a console. So let me hit play here. I'm going to A-B the drive, and then I'll dial it up so you can hear what happens as we go harder into the console shaper. So you'll notice it's kind of a funny thing as we push the drive harder. To me, it works like an actual console would work. The harder you push into the console, the more it's going to roll off the rougher edges per se. So the harder you push the drive here, the less you're going to get of that crispy top end. It's going to kind of roll that harsh top end off, and it's going to roll our big low end off. So the harder you push in, the more saturation you drive into the console or drive from the console, it's going to roll off our top and bottom end and kind of give us mostly just the mid-range that we have left. But the funny thing is, at 0, by clicking it on, we get more of those two areas. We get some more crispy top end, and we get more low end weight. That's why I use it right on 0. Anywhere above that, and again, it starts to kind of roll off those other areas. Let me demo the other two for you here, so the crosstalk and the noise, and then we're going to do one final tweak on our balances, and we will call it a day here. So the noise first, sometimes I do click this on right at the lowest on 16. So if I shut up here, you'll hear the noise when I click it on and off. So that's all the way up at 96. You can hear how much noise it adds. If I do turn this on, I do only use it at 16. But let me hit play here, and I'll A/B just the noise on the lowest setting here. Listen to how it kind of fattens up the mix a little bit. And it also, to me, makes it seem wider. Take a listen here, just on the lowest setting, without, and then I'll click it in, and you can hear how our mix changes. It can be a nice thing to add. My only complaint about adding noise on the MixBus here is that if you have any track inside your mix that you're going to be boosting a lot of top end on, you're going to get a lot more noise even on the lowest setting here. So that's why I don't use it most of the time, but it can be a nice thing to add there. Last thing we'll talk about is the crosstalk here. So I'll click this on and dial it up. You can hear how our mix kind of bleeds together. It gives you that feeling, right, even when you solo a track, that it was tracked live off the floor and that things are kind of bleeding into each other. It can be a nice element to add if you're trying to get some more live feel out of a track. I don't use it all that often, but it is there and it can be helpful. All right, going back now, we have our drive in. We have that little bit of extra power on our low end, that extra crispiness on the top end. Let's go back and tweak our levels one more time now. So this would be if we were mixing through the console shaper. Now we have it in on our MixBus. Let's start back at our kick drum and rebuild our balance with the console shaper in place here. You can hear it's a night and day difference when we get to our bass guitar here. Without the console shaper in, when we're trying to balance our bass guitar with our kick drum, it can be quite a bit more challenging, especially if the bass doesn't have the same low end weight that the kick drum does. You kind of feel like you have to leave it till you get inside the mix and you start EQing. Here with the console shaper in, just a little tweak there on our bass guitar, sits really, really nicely now with our kick drum. Let's throw our guitars in and keep moving here. We got a really, really good balance now. You can see once you get the console shaper in, just little tweaks along the way. You can see what I did there on the kick drum, right? So I'm using a lot less kick out. Like I said, we get some extra low end from the console shaper, so we don't need as much of the kick out there. And then just an extra boost there. Pulled some of the snare high back, because again, got some extra low end weight there. Added some extra room and some extra overhead because of the effect we get on the top end there from the console shaper, so we need a little bit more of that. Pulled the bass guitar back a touch, set really, really nice with our kick drum. And same thing on our guitars, just pulled them back just a touch because it's pulling up that crispy top end that we're getting from our electric guitars as well. And now everything's sitting really, really nicely. Let me A-B the console shaper and you can hear the full effect of what we have here. Now it really feels like it's doing what it's meant to do. It's adding that console vibe, that vintage vibe, that analog vibe, right? That gives your mix the depth it needs to feel less digital and to feel less like a demo. That's kind of the night and day difference for me when you click on the console shaper. It can kind of take it across the threshold from being raw recorded tracks, a raw demo, to being that much closer to being a finished mix. And it also adds that analog depth that you need for your mix to evoke a little bit of emotion and not feel so flat, so dull, and so digital sounding. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.